I knew he looked at me differently, but I never thought I'd have the courage to return the gaze. Until that night. Everything happened so fast. The tension in the air was palpable, and no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, things between us started to heat up in a way I never imagined. That smile of his, the way he touched me lightly, the glances. Everything seemed to signal that something was about to happen. I didn't want to be the one to ruin my friendship with Lou, but in that moment, my own desires were screaming louder, and I knew there was no turning back. My name is Julia. I'm 27 years old. I work as a directing assistant at an ad agency in São Paulo. Nothing too glamorous, despite what the title might suggest. My routine is mostly work, Netflix, and endless conversations with Lou, my best friend since college. Lou always had that kind of luck with men that I never did. She's beautiful, confident, and never afraid to be impulsive. I, on the other hand, have always been more rational, shy even, especially when it comes to relationships. I've always been cautious, maybe even a little too reserved, but Luau never left me out. She always included me in everything, even the most intimate moments. It was like I was the sister she never had. And of course, in the middle of all this dynamic, Caio showed up. Her boyfriend. He was exactly the kind of guy I'd expect Lou to date. Charming, confident, and with a smile that always seemed to carry a promise. For a while, I watched them from a distance. Lou and Caio always seemed so happy together. And I just felt more distant, more invisible. But there was something about Caio that I couldn't ignore. Something in his eyes when he greeted me. I tried to look away, to pretend I didn't notice anything unusual, but I couldn't deny it. There was an attraction, a tension, something unspoken between us. And even though I knew it was wrong, that it could destroy my friendship with Lou, I couldn't stop thinking about him. The desire was growing inside me, and I didn't know how much longer I could resist. It was at a weekend barbecue she hosted. Just close friends, nothing special. I arrived late as usual, and when I walked into the backyard, he was the first to notice me. Caio was there, in a t-shirt and jeans, talking with some friends. The wind played with his hair, and for a moment, everything around me disappeared. When he saw me, it wasn't just an ordinary glance. He looked at me in a way that made my stomach twist. A subtle smile, but full of unspoken intentions. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. It was like he was inviting me to come closer. Lou was distracted, chatting with other friends, and Caio took the opportunity to approach me. He came over with a cold beer, and when he handed it to me, his hand lingered on mine just a second too long. A quick touch, but one that sent a shiver down my spine. "You're late," he said, with a mischievous smile at the corner of his lips. His voice was heavy, as if he was saying something far more intimate than a simple greeting. It made me blush instantly. I didn't know what to say, but his eyes, oh, his eyes. He was testing me, waiting for me to say something, to react. But instead, I just smiled, trying to hide what I felt. That night, the tension between us became almost unbearable. I knew something was happening, but I didn't know how to react. Lou was nearby, laughing and having fun, completely unaware of what was going on between Caio and me. I was starting to realize that nothing would ever be the same from that moment on. In the days that followed, something changed. Every time we met, whether at birthdays, dinners, or casual gatherings, he greeted me with a kiss on the cheek that lasted just a second too long. He looked at me with those dark eyes, and I knew he was teasing me. Something was in the air, and each time we met, the tension only grew. At one of those gatherings, after a party, he sent me a message that made me stop everything. "I dreamed about you last night." At first I thought it was a mistake, After all, he had just been with Lou. It seemed impossible that he would think about me while being with her. But he quickly apologized, saying he had confused the contacts. He laughed it off like it was nothing, but not to me. I knew exactly what he was doing. And worse, I knew I was reacting just the way he expected me to. When he looked into my eyes and smiled again, a mix of excitement and guilt washed over me. That message hit me like a punch to the gut, and at the same time, like a promise of something more. Over time, he started getting closer, subtly, almost imperceptibly, but enough for my body to respond instantly. With each touch, each look, my resistance crumbled. I tried to ignore it, but the signs were all there. He wanted me. And I didn't know how to hide how much I wanted to give in. It was on a rainy night that everything happened. Lou was away on a work trip and had asked me to stop by her apartment to feed the cat. She told me Kaio also had a key, but that he probably wouldn't show up. She was wrong. When I opened the door to her apartment, a strange feeling came over me. It was silent, but the air felt charged, as if something was about to happen. And then, I saw him. Kaio was sitting on the couch in a black t-shirt and slightly messy hair, like he'd just woken up. He was alone, with a half-empty glass of wine on the table. "I didn't think you'd come today," he said, with that enigmatic smile, like he'd been waiting for me. I was overcome by a mix of nerves and curiosity. It was as if time had slowed down, and everything around us was just a distant backdrop. The rain hit the window, amplifying the silence between us. I walked slowly toward him, not knowing what to expect. Then he stood up, walking toward me with steady steps. But, no rush, he stopped right in front of me, just inches from my face, and looked deep into my eyes. "You feel it too, right?" he whispered, his voice low but full of meaning. I didn't know how to respond. I was frozen, my body trembling with desire, while my mind tried to resist. It wasn't about right or wrong anymore, but instinct. My body had said yes weeks ago. And now, with no turning back, I let him come closer. The air was heavy, charged with energy that couldn't be ignored. The tension between us was unbearable, and desire was finally ready to be consumed. He didn't kiss me right away, not like I imagined. Instead, he leaned in closer, gently brushing his fingers against my wrist, as if to feel my pulse. The touch was light, but it lit a fire inside me. His eyes were fixed on mine, like he was studying me, trying to guess what I wanted. But it was obvious. I wanted him. I wanted that moment. I wanted what was about to happen. Every second of anticipation was eating me alive. He moved slowly, his lips hovering near my neck, without touching me. It was torture. The heat of his breath on my skin made me crave more. I couldn't think clearly anymore. All I wanted was to feel him, touch him, give in to the desire that had already consumed me. When he finally pulled me by the waist, the kiss was as intense as I imagined, but restrained, as if he wanted to savor the moment. His hands moved slowly, along my back, up the curves of my body to my neck, and I felt my breath quicken, grow heavier. We lay on the couch. Even though we were still dressed, the feeling of being completely exposed to each other was inescapable. I felt vulnerable, but at the same time completely empowered by the way he touched me. He whispered my name softly, like it was a secret, and his fingers explored my skin with calm certainty, as if he knew exactly how and where to touch me. Our bodies fit together perfectly. I could no longer control my racing heart. Every touch, every movement, left me both weaker and more aroused. It was a delicate dance between control and surrender, and I was ready to surrender completely. I didn't think about Lou. I didn't think about anything except what was happening in that moment. There was no room for regret, for guilt, or for reason. I wanted Kaio, and that was all that mattered. Every movement he made, every whisper in my ear, drove me deeper into madness. The pleasure spread through my body like uncontrollable fire. I could no longer tell where my skin ended and his began. We were lost in those moments, in a desire that could no longer be ignored. He looked at me with eyes full of hunger and a satisfied smile. He seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Each gesture calculated, yet completely natural. And when he whispered, "You have no idea how many times I imagined this," I knew he wasn't lying. He had thought about me the same way I had, longed for him. And when our bodies finally joined, it was like an explosion. The pleasure was overwhelming. I lost all sense of time, space, everything. But there was something more. Something beyond physical satisfaction. There was the feeling that something had been sealed. Something irreversible. Like fate had taken over, and there was no turning back for either of us. When silence finally settled in, I found myself lying next to him, my heart still racing, my breath uneven. The rain outside had eased, and for a moment, everything felt calm, like the world had stopped. He looked at me with that same enigmatic smile, the smile from the barbecue, the smile of someone who knew something was about to happen. But now, that smile seemed different, more intimate, more sure. "Lou won't find out. Unless you tell her," he said, with a teasing tone in his voice. I stayed silent, the weight of it all finally settling in. I knew I had crossed a line. I knew my friendship with Lou would never be the same. But the real question lingered. What would I do with this? With the feeling that something between Kaio and me had begun and couldn't be undone. I got dressed in silence, each movement slower, as if time had slowed again. My heart still pounding, but now with a strange mix of emptiness and fullness. Before I left, I looked at him and left a question hanging in the air. A provocation. What if I want her to know? The following week, Lou broke up with Kaio. She called me, her voice a little nervous, and told me he was leaving with someone else. She had found him with another woman. She said, in her view, he was never who he seemed to be. I didn't know what to say. The shock was intense. But I also knew he had been honest with me. Maybe he wasn't in love with her anymore. Maybe he didn't know what to do with the desire he felt for me. Lou looked at me, and amidst it all, gave me an unexpected piece of advice. "I think you should give Kaio a chance. He seems to really like you." And I knew. I knew she was right. Kaio and I already had something that couldn't be undone. Not now.